Hello, everyone. I'm Dangilo from Bollotta Entertainment, here to welcome you to the BESA San Diego Mitzvah Mingle March 2021. Normally, during this time of year, we would be meeting you and your families in the hustle and bustle of our BESA Expo. But however, this year, we had to do things just a little bit differently. But please you keep an eye out for emails and updates because we do want to try to meet you this September for our BESA Expo, which we will plan on producing if it is possible to do safely and under guidelines. So today, our main goal is to address your concerns and questions that you may have had in the last year. So as venues are opening up, I know that a lot of you are starting to get into your planning modes, and we just want to be here to collaborate with you and offer some guidance. We will keep this quick. We're going to keep things moving along, and we're going to get you out of here in about 90 minutes or less. Please make sure that your mics are muted unless you are asking questions. I'm going to start with some questions that we received inside of your registration forms, and then we're going to open it up as a general town hall style where you guys can ask us questions either in the chat or just raise your hand and we'll address you then. Okay, so let's get started. So I come from Bollotta Entertainment, and so we're an entertainment firm, and so we do a lot of these things. And the virtual part of it, the live stream part of it, isn't going to really go anywhere. I think that, in our opinion, and that what we've seen is that a lot of events are going to go hybrid. So then, when you do have that family that's back in Israel, they can still tap in and they get to watch what's going on live here in San Diego. So I think that is something that's still very, very a smart thing to invest in as we move forward, as the world opens back up. Even after that, the live stream part of it, it's not really going anywhere. We have TikTok, we have Snapchat, Instagram, all those social media aspects are really out there. And so it's just it's driving home. I want to ask one more thing here. And so I know that RJ, you've done a couple things too in this virtual world where it's come to, has it been drive-through events, or what else have you done over there with the green screens?
Yes, definitely a lot of drive-through events. We've done the events where, well, typically with our green screen, we are socially distant anyway. So we've actually done events where they have, when you were allowed to come in, little family pods at a time. The biggest thing that we've been doing is the virtual photo ops, where basically you can have all of your people that use this virtual app that we have and get all their photos done. They can pick, they can size. You don't even need a green screen with our technology. And in fact, Beth Israel, we just did their drive-through thing and we used the virtual thing there, but they had their own photographer taking photos, and we were able to do that for them too. So yeah, there's a lot of different options. So
it's really where there's a will, there's a way, and that if we want to celebrate and if we could find a way to do it safely, we will. And so I know that our with us, and I know with RJ, and I think even our caterers, where these drive-through events, you can kind of pump up the volume on some of those things. So if you're going to have, everybody's going to do a birthday care again in front of the house, well, there's no reason to not supplement that with a catering box. And so as the people drive by, is that you're handing out a box that has popcorn and brownies and maybe a charcuterie, a whole, it's like you can do all these different things with that. And then also, like, on ours and with the entertainment, is that we did one that was Moana themed. So we had, different surfers and things that are out there socially distanced, kind of waving and kind of giving the kids like a moment too of entertainment as it kind of goes through there. Kind of want to go down this little thing here. Did anybody else on our panel have any other comments about COVID safe that they wanted to address? I see Shirley down there at Creative Design.
Yeah. What I've been doing for many of my customers is putting an invitation in a box and mailing them with popcorn and gummy bears and tea and herbal tea and the program. And we've sent that all over the country, and it's been very, very well received. So at the time that the kid is doing his Torah portion, they've got their party in front of them. And it also gives the Zoom link, and there's a little RSVP card inside the package, so that if by some chance the guest wants to send a check back, he's got the envelope already printed. Or what my latest customer did was put advice to and the kid's name, and that way, or message to, and that way they could write a message and give their well wishes in the envelope with a stamp, return stamped envelope. It really went down well.
That's beautiful, those sentiments. So this is something I'm just hearing this from you about the advice cards. So what is great about this, and so that I'm hearing here, is that if you're still doing a virtual party, if you're going to still do this over Zoom, there are ways to still give your guests an experience, that there's a way to still pump up that afternoon and give them something that kind of makes them feel like a tribe. So as Shirley's saying, is that she's putting in there the popcorn, and that there's different, novelty and accessories and those kind of things that everybody's all going to have at the same time. So when they all log into this thing, everybody's eating the same gummy bears. Everybody is having that same experience together. So it kind of creates a little bit more of a tribe and a little bit more of a unity in the party, and more people are going to be apt to log in. We got to log in and watch the Torah reading today, but you know what? We're sitting at home and we're doing it in our slippers, and we have this really great box that has, these suggested things on it. And so, Lydia, you also have your hand up.
I just wanted to direct back to Bob. Emma had a question that maybe others would want to hear the answer to. Bob, can you answer that, please, about taking the family photos? And it was a question about masks.
Oh, so we have a question here. Yeah. Are people able to take family photos in their congregation without masks? Have you taken photos at any mitzvahs recently? Are people able to remove the masks? So answers for those questions.
Yeah. Hi, Emma. Thanks for that great question. Yes, I've photographed several of them in the last several months at different temples, and all of the ones that I photographed have all allowed the mask to be taken off for the photos. Now, the actual service part, they might have, depending on the temple, it varies from temple to temple, but the mitzvah child didn't have to wear a mask during the whole service. Other ones, they had to wear the mask, but for posed photos before or after the service, the mitzvah child and the family, parents, grandparents, everyone, depending on their comfort, have been allowed to take their masks off. And pose in group pictures, that are within their pod. So that hasn't been a problem, fortunately.
Okay, perfect. And then, so I hope that gives you guys a really good sense of what's going on there when it comes to the services. If there's any more questions about these COVID safety procedures or anything, feel free to put those in the chat, or when we open this back up, just write that down and we'll go ahead and we'll answer those questions again. And then I'm also want to kind of just move around here onto a couple of our other items that we have here. So before I move on, I just kind of want to give a little bit of a look around here. And I know a lot of people don't have their cameras on. So even if you can put it in the chat, I would like to see, what are people's year that they are right now planning for? Are people still right now looking for 2021? Are we looking for 2022? Just to kind of give me a little bit more notice of where we want to kind of spend a little bit more time, if we want to kind of go over a little bit more of our virtual event kind of situation. So I'm seeing a little bit of 2022, 2021. So perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go back into that. I'm going to jump over to another topic, and then I'm going to jump back into virtual events. So I have a question here that I think a lot of people want to know the answer to. And not to be funny, but so I'm going to put this over to Lydia and Rachel first. And that is, what does the event planner do exactly? That's a question we have here. So Rachel, could you give me what you guys do? And then I'm going to pass it over to Lydia.
Sure. Well, I'm sure Lydia and I will have a lot of similar answers and some differences. For me, I have different packages. So I can be there as much as you want. We can be besties, going to every meeting, going over all the details together. Truly, we become really good friends. And we work together in bringing your vision to life. Or maybe someone doesn't need all the hands-on help and they can reach out to the vendors themselves, or maybe they're like, hey, I saw this on Pinterest, but where do I get it? That's where we come in and we're like, oh, this person does that. This, you know, we help you. We're matchmakers. We help you. We pair you up. And then we can also do things like just the day of. You do all the planning and then we show up, we take over, bring your vision to life and allow you to be a guest at the party. So we can do as little as you want, you know, as just the day of, or we can really hold your hand and walk you through every step. Lydia, what do you want to add to that?
Well, I would say I agree with everything you say. We do as much or as little as you want, but in my case, I never want to take anything away from you that you want to do. If you say, I want to make my own hospitality bags, then I'll say, well, great. So if you want to do them yourself, here's the bags I suggest so that they don't break. Here's where you get them. Here's what to shop for. Here's a suggested list of things to put in it. And I think the most important thing that we can do is not only be the matchmaker, like Rachel said, and sometimes you have a dream and you just don't have a clue where to find a vendor, and we can definitely match you up with the right person. But being that point of contact and understanding all of the ins and outs of things like power, your room may only have so many amps of power. And we know if you're having a photo booth and a chocolate fountain and a coffee station and a DJ and lighting and whatever, we have to make sure that everybody knows where they're going to plug in, what time everybody's arriving, because maybe the loading dock is small, and we have to make sure that everybody is staggered appropriately. So there's just so much behind the scenes stuff that we do that really, I've been told also that we anticipate things before they happen. And
I was just gonna say, we think of all the negatives that could happen, and we try to make sure that none of that happens. So we always kind of go down all the paths of, you know, how this could go.
I always tell clients, you don't want to call up grandpa for the motzi and maybe he's in the bathroom. You've got to have that one point of contact so that the kitchen needs to tell us that the food is ready before the DJ makes the announcement that the food is ready. And, you know, if you have a plated meal and it's coming out, you don't want the DJ to be clueless and not understand that and have big music playing and everybody's up out of their seat. One of the most important things is keeping that flow going throughout the night. And it's so important to have that point of contact that can just make sure that the food is ready and then let the DJ know it's time to slow it down, or, you know, don't do the motzi right now because grandpa's in the bathroom, or whatever. There's so many things that can happen, like kids get sick in the bathroom, or somebody's car gets hit in the parking lot. You run out of vodka. Who knows? I mean, I had to send my staff to the store for all kinds of crazy things, but that's kind of the gist of it. But I always tell my clients that I do more than what's in my contract. I have shown up to a synagogue and had a mom say to me, I am starving. I need you to go get me yogurt right now. Or my shoes are killing me. You have 10 minutes to run to CVS and go get me some heel pads. And we're happy. I know Rachel is too. We're all happy to do anything we can within our power to make your day flow so that you can be emotionally present and take pictures and look beautiful and get your kids dressed and just be present in the party.
Absolutely. And so it's just basically, essentially, they're acting as a contractor for your party. And so they really know what the ins and outs and who's actually coming through and what time does this need to be dropped off? What time does something need to be picked up? They're taking and they're alleviating really the stress off of you at that moment and in that time, because they can honestly let you enjoy the party a little bit more and do the hellos and run around, because you're going to want to live in that moment when you have an event planner there, they can really be the conduit to making sure that you have your sanity and that you're able to go forward and really take some moments and make those memories.
And it goes by faster. Sorry. It goes by faster than you think. And it's so important that you have pictures and video, because once the party's over, it's like a dream in your head, and that's all you have left. So don't skimp on the photography.
I was just going to touch on one thing, was that you were saying the timeline, and it sparked something. You can have a timeline in place and you can hand them off to all your vendors, but like Lydia was saying, things happen the night of, and maybe this particular group of kids or adults, it took them a long time to get on that dance floor, but we finally have them out there and the energy is so good. But guess what? The timeline says it's 9 o'clock and dessert comes out. Well, no, we're going to hold that dessert, because we know once dessert is out, the kids leave the dance floor. So we're going to work together with your vendors, with the caterer, with the, the DJ, and say, hey, we're going to hold this. So we're going to do what we think is best for the party. So the timeline is a guide, but that's a guide. But that's just one thing that if you didn't have a day of planner and you just hand that timeline off, little things like that do affect the party. So that was just one thing that when you said it sparked my head. So I'll let this go. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to switch gears a little bit because we had a question here about venues. And I kind of want to bring Barbara Ramsey into this conversation as being somebody who has a venue that she manages. And so one of the questions had to do with the best places to host a party. Is it necessarily, it's not always at a hotel any longer. What are people looking for, and what should they be looking for in the venue when they're looking to contact a venue? What should they be going in with?
Well, they have to figure out how much time do they need. Does it match with what is available at the venue? Does the venue have catering, or are you allowed to choose your own caterer? Are there noise restrictions with the venue? And so those are the types of things I think that people are looking for. And when you look at your contract, there are many things to consider: the cancellation policy, revenue guarantees for the venue, what's included in the price, when is access allowed to the venue? Are you perhaps allowed to drop things off the day before? Are outside vendors allowed? Decor restrictions and liability insurance. So those are the things that I think people need to look at when they're choosing and selecting a venue. And yes, a lot of events are still done at hotels, but people are now looking for that unusual type of place to hold their event in.
Absolutely. And it just seems like to Barbara's point here is that it really is kind of determining, if you're working with a planner or if you're working by yourself, what is your timing going to be for that evening? And is the venue going to be even available for you? Is it going to, are you going to be at a hotel where there might be an event earlier in the afternoon, so you can't get in until 2:00 in the afternoon for a 6:00 dinner, those sorts of things. So those are things that you need to look for in a venue. You said also if the venue can, if they're open to working with caterers from outside, or if they are strictly, if you're going to be choosing a venue that you can only utilize their caterers. What were the other little pinpoints there? I want to make sure that we say them one more time if anybody's writing them down.
Sure. And I can also send this to whomever. I've got some key points that I put together. The items that you want to look for, certainly in your contract and what's available at the venue is, and that this is a real key one right now, considering the pandemic the past year, is the cancellation policy. How much time do you have to make a cancellation? Do you get your deposit back? Revenue guarantees for the venue or your caterer or your beverage company. What's included in the price? Is parking included? Is Wi-Fi included? Who's responsible for cleaning the venue? When is access allowed to the venue, like you just mentioned? Outside vendors allowed. Decor restrictions, you have to think about that in hotels.
Has to do with candles. That's a big one, you guys, is candles that in decor. Like, are you allowed to bring in candles?
Especially if it's a historic site. There are a lot of those in San Diego that don't allow any real candles.
Right. And can you throw confetti on the floor? Can you throw rose petals on the floor? A lot of times you can't do that because it's too hard to get out of the carpet to clean. And then the other big thing I think people kind of forget about sometimes is the liability insurance that you have to have when you rent any of these spaces. I think that's pretty much the norm now. It wasn't several years ago, but that is now required at most venues.
Absolutely. And so kind of going in a bouncing around here to some of these questions that you guys have asked. And so I want to get to those before we get to some of our general ones. So another question that I have here, and I'm going to bounce this question around to a few different people. Are bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs more casual now, is a question that somebody had. And so that I want to pop that on over to actually to Bob. Bob, like, what are you seeing by way, because since you're involved with the service and also the receptions usually, are you seeing them as being more casual, or is it a little bit more, are we still keeping on to tradition in different ways, and even in how people dress?
I don't know if you could make a general statement about that. Maybe a little bit less formal. It's been a long time since I've worn a tuxedo to a bar mitzvah, but there was a day when that was the norm. And of course, it depends on if oftentimes a different outfit is worn to the service than to the party. So those, oftentimes the service will be more formal, and then the party might be more informal if it's a morning service and an afternoon party. If it's an evening party, then people tend to dress up more.
So,
but
Lydia,
not tuxedos.
Lydia, what are you finding in that sense
Well,
as a party planner?
As far as how people dress, it usually would go with the venue. And to go back to add on to what Barbara was saying, sometimes there are unique venues that people wouldn't even think of. You can buy out a restaurant, a nightclub, a park. Come on, help me here, Rachel.
We have a bunch of them in our BESA utilities.
Yeah,
We have the flower fields are available. House of Blues. There's lots of different venues.
Yeah. So if people were to use a nightclub, then people would be dressed probably a little more casually. If you choose to have your party at a fancy hotel, that's probably going to have people dressed up a little bit more, but you don't have to wear a tie. Usually for the evening parties, even at a hotel, I see the men like in a button-down shirt and slacks, and the women wear anything from a pantsuit, a jumpsuit, a cocktail dress, a skirt and top.
Could that go also hand in hand with like the theme of the evening?
Yes. It can, if you do anything that relates to, like if you did a jungle theme and I see people coming in animal print. One thing I will say is that the more casual the party, let's just say the more casual the kids act. So I do suggest, Rachel will agree with me on that.
Yeah, yes.
To an extent. I've had a really casual party where the kids came into a nightclub wearing shorts and tank tops, and the behavior was worse than if they were dressed up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends. I see a huge range. I see a range in very casual all kid parties to really fancy hotel events. I think it depends on you and your family. Every kid is different, and not every kid wants a dance party. Some kids want to go have a video game party, and that's totally okay. And that is, we'll make it work. So, and it depends on your budget too. So, there's a wide range, and we can make it a really nice formal event for a lower end budget. It doesn't have to be high end, high budget to be an informal event, is what I'm saying. So it's a range.
Even someplace like Party Pals, they have a venue and they're members of BESA. It's the place that provides all of the video games, like Rachel said, but they have this really cool outdoor tent where you can wear shorts and tank tops if it's September. And it's a really fun place to have a party, but you're celebrating your child in a manner that would be appropriate to their likes and dislikes and what's good for your family. There are some people that just would never put on a dress or get dressed up, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have less of a party if you're dressed in a more casual fashion or have a more casual kind of party.
Absolutely. That leads to another question that I want to kind of keep to you event planners in a sense. And if anybody else has any comments too from our BESA panel. Yes, Shirley.
Okay. So the invitation can dictate what kind of event it's going to be. If it's
Very
a very
true.
formal event, we can put glitter and silver and black and all that kind of stuff. If it's more casual, we make the invitation and the wording more casual. Also, we put the dress code on the invitation. So that tells people what to expect. Another thing I wanted to address, which Barbara mentioned, liability. I am very aware, having grandchildren, that a lot of the parents will say to their children, I'll meet you outside for pickup. Something I really don't like. It's not safe. You don't know who's lurking around. It's better to park your car and go inside and get your child. The hostess will feel way more comfortable with that.
I think even in today's world, it just kind of alleviates everybody's mind that if somebody's actually coming in to receive the kids. And I think that a lot of our planners and a lot of our people who are responsible for the party, they really will echo that sentiment as well.
And most of the valet will allow you to just park your car for a few minutes and say you're going to run in and pick up your child.
Yeah, and they usually will, because it's just the kid who, I remember when I was young, not too long ago, I was young and and I, meet us outside. Okay, but I'm going to go to the gas station first with my friends and then I'm going to get, so it's just really, if you give them a little bit of a leash, they will take that leash. They will get off the porch. And so I want to stay in this general vicinity right now with these questions. And that comes to kid parties versus adult parties, or the mix. What are the pros and cons of having it just be kids or incorporating the adults? And so Lydia, I'm going to go right back into you real quickly for this answer.
So the kids party only, I think, requires more entertainment options. Some people think, well, I have a good DJ and that's all what you need. But the kids have a shorter attention span. And I feel like when you have the adults together, then you have the opportunity to do the hora, and you're breaking up the party a little bit more by having the hora and possibly candle lighting and some other things that would incorporate all three generations. So as a parent, I love to watch the kids. I think that it's so much fun. And there are some kids that don't want any parents in the room, and that works. But I do feel like having a few different other options for them to do really keeps the party going. And I would also make a kid only party a shorter party. I would do, Benji, do you want to agree with that? I would say usually about 3 hours for kid only party.
Yeah, so with kids parties, Lydia nailed it. You're going to want to make sure you have lots of entertainment for them. I mean, even if your son or daughter were to say, Mom, Dad, I love to dance. It's my favorite thing to do. I can tell you as entertainment, if I were to say to them, okay, go dance for 3 hours straight, they're going to say, no, you're crazy. I don't want to do that. And so it's all about having, some different things at the party to keep them busy. So as opposed to a kid adult mix party, where, as Lydia mentioned, we've got some formalities to break up the night. We dance, we party, then we eat, then we watch a video, then we dance some more, and then dessert, so it's kind of got that ebb and flow. With a kids party, it's generally just food and party. So we need to break it up. Typically we make it a little shorter. And I mean, it's all the same amount of fun. And then my final thought on that would be, the only sort of question regarding that I get would be if the kids think that they're not going to have fun, or they and their friends aren't going to have as much fun at the party if adults are there. Mom, Dad, I don't want anyone watching us, or whatever the case may be. I can tell you definitively in all the years I've done this, that is very not true. The kids will have fun at a party no matter what. I mean, granted, make sure the entertainment is good, but they won't even notice anybody's there watching them when they're on the dance floor dancing and doing contests and being engaged. And so if anything, I would say kid adult parties generally wind up being a little more fun, because when your son or daughter, the bar bat mitzvah, is out on the dance floor seeing everyone they know out there with them, that's a memory they get to keep forever. That's something that they're going to be able to look back on pictures on that they may not appreciate today, but years from now when they see aunts and uncles and cousins all celebrating with them together, it truly is priceless memories. So obviously anything you want, we all collectively as mitzvah vendors do. But there are always things to consider, of course, to making sure that everything is the best it can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have anything to chime in about kid parties, adult parties, or the verses of the two? Anybody else on our panel?
I have something to add, just
Mm-hmm.
having been to quite a few. I agree with what Benji said. I think that, you know, if anything, an adult children party is more fun. I think that just the combination and just the tradition, you know, I think the grandparents love watching the kids dance and do the crazy things that kids do. So I think the grandparents and parents love watching that. And I think that it kind of brings home the generation to generation thing that bar mitzvahs are all about. So I think that they love that. And I know when it comes to the photos, when people pick out the photos, the ones that they always choose are grandpa dancing with his granddaughter, or, you know, it's those family pictures that they choose. So I know they love those, and it would be a shame to not have that moment. If you can have a party with everyone, I think you'll be glad you did.
Can I
Great.
add
And then-
to that?
Yeah.
I also wanted to say that if you have a kid-only party, we provide staff for that, because maybe the parents aren't allowed in the room, but it can't just be the DJ as the only adult in the room. There need to be some other responsible adults that can just keep the behavior intact.
Absolutely. And Rachel, what do you want to add as well?
Thanks. I was just gonna say, if you do have a kid that is really harping on having their own party, and as a parent, you just want to guide them the other way, a really good thing you can do is have them be separate during cocktail hour. So let the kids go into the ballroom or the separate space or whatever it is alone. Let the DJs warm them up, just do some icebreakers, let them go crazy, let them go wild in the beginning of the party. And then after 45 minutes, you can open up the doors, and then they won't even know, like Benji said, that the adults are in the room. So I think that is always a good way of going about it, kind of giving a compromise of what does the kid want and what does the parent want and what is best for the party. So that's my advice on that.
Absolutely. It's coming with that collaboration, so to speak.
I mean, you're dealing with, almost 13-year-olds. So a lot of them are they have visions and they're specific in what they want, and that is awesome. But we also want to guide them into making it a really good, memorable event.
And a reality check too of what's possible, because that's another thing too, is just guiding it that way. I want to get into, we have some other extra questions here too about activities. So this kind of puts us in a good place. So one of the questions that we had come over, and I'm going to open this up to everybody on our panel today, and that's how many extra activities should I have at my bar or bat mitzvah? Will having too many detract from the party or from the experience? So who would like to take that one first? Anybody on the panel?
I'll jump on that one.
Okay, Benji.
So I'd say that's probably the most popular question we get, and it's generally in the sense of sort of a fear. My son or daughter went to a party and saw all these things that they want for their party. Should I get them all? So it's kind of, on one hand, do we need them? And then on the other hand, if we do get them, what does it take away from the party? So short answer, no, you don't need a million things at your party. You need great entertainment. You need to feed everybody. And it's nice to have some other things for people to do. Will they detract from the party? Generally, no. If you have something like a photo booth or sticker shock, like you water bottles, fun stuff like that, where people go, they get it done, and then they move on. It's not taking away from the party. If anything, it sort of adds to the party, because, in that same vein of nobody wants to dance for 3 hours straight, people still want to enjoy the party even when they're not dancing. And so these activities give them something to do, so they still get to be a part of doing something fun, even if they do want to take a little break from dancing. But you also need to be mindful of the activities that you are choosing. So I'll give one example, and I'm not saying this would not be good for a party, but it's something to consider. If you've been to a party that has the blackjack tables or the poker tables, you need to know that there are some kids who will sit there for 4 hours straight and lose track of time as if they were in a casino. And it's just because it's just that engaging for them. And so that doesn't mean don't get it, but just know that may happen. And if you go in knowing that, and if you have planners or any other entertainment kind of knowing that too, we can structure things around that. So if you do have, if your kid really wants one of those tables, but that's a fear of yours, maybe we just do it for the cocktail hour and then close it for a little bit and then come back to it. Maybe there are ways to structure the party around it so that everybody still gets what they want, but we're not losing focus on, a lot of the time, the core party, which is everybody being together. So it's really just knowing what kind of party you want and let that guide you. But no, you don't need a million things, but it is fun to have a few, one or two for people to do.
It's Lydia.
I want to add to that. Benji's absolutely correct. You can't dance for 4 hours and you can't eat for 4 hours. So you need to have something else.
I can.
You can. And I think that, understanding that you have a good DJ like Benji, who can also play games in between, it's just a great way to have also a take-home favor as well. So if they have a photo booth, they're walking away with something. If they do sticker shock or the candy bar or something like that. And these activities are short, even blackjack. You can play a hand of blackjack in 2 minutes. And, we do structure that. We tell the games and things to shut down during the hora and the motzi, in times where everybody should be focused on the dance floor and the DJ and the family. And you can also just keep, even if it's a 4-hour contract, just keep those blackjack tables for 2 or 3 hours. And at any time you can say, oh, there's too many kids on it. Let's tell them to go home because we want everybody on the dance floor. And just keep in mind, not every kid is mature enough to dance. So it is important to have that variety of things. Rachel, you had some.
I'll add one other thing is picking your venue is really important. So a wedding is different than a mitzvah. And there are some really good venues in San Diego that are very appealing, but they're very spread out. So when you have these mitzvahs that have a lot of these other vendors and you put them in different rooms and the kids start going into different rooms, you lose them. So you have to be really smart. So maybe if you do have that poker table, or you do have whatever extra scrapbook table or whatever you have, put it all in the same space. So all the kids are together and the adults are together. So, or if it's in cocktail hour, make sure you can then bring it into the room. So again, you don't lose them. So be mindful in your venue that when kids can go into different rooms, you'll lose them. So.
And so I'm going to chime in too. It's just coming as an entertainment from Bollotta Entertainment that you can also curtail some of the things that, like when it comes to costs, that you can reuse some items. Like how she's saying is that you might have the tables out in cocktail hour, and then you go in for dinner, and then you bring them back in the room for dessert. So it has to do with like the pacing, and then just also you can reuse and move things around. That can also happen with your photo booths. And then also with the party pumpers, that you may want to have them as greeters at one point when everybody's walking in, they're in one kind of costume because we're doing this Vegas look, and then we get into the room, and then those actors, those dancers, those party pumpers, they change into a whole nother costume. So you're reusing the person, so you're not paying for 3 different people. That if you go to like a firm like ours, that I need one girl, I need her there for the 3 hours, but I want her to be the sugar plum fairy, and I also want her to be a showgirl. Great, we can make it happen with one person. That you're not bringing more people into the mix for the evening.
I want to be both of those.
Well, we can make it happen, Benji. Just
so I want to
add
one thing. I want to add one thing, and this is only because I've gotten to work with Dangilo a lot. A lot of times people think of extra activities and entertainment. Anything that's not DJ but still entertainment. A lot of people think of them as these stationary things, right? It's got to be a station you go to, a poker table or a photo booth or a nail or hair or whatever station. But, Dangilo, especially someone like Magic Mike, there are a lot of entertainment things you can get that roam around your party. So, that's sort of an extra fun layer of it's fast, it's quick, it's entertaining, and they literally go with the party. They go wherever the party is. And so, looking at things like that for a fun addition to the party is always a great idea, because it's just a little bit more novel and different, and they get to read the crowd and kind of go with them, as opposed to just having station A, station B, station C. Not to say you can't, but there are a lot of other options out there that you may or may not have considered that are available.
When you
And I
have
would say we love having surprises during the party later in the evening. So you think all the surprises are up by the time you go in after cocktail hour. If you have an entertainer that comes out during dinner, that's a blast.
yeah,
So in my world, I entertain during the cocktail hour, and then when the bar bat mitzvah child goes through the doors and is introduced, I don't entertain. I stop entertaining during the hora and the mosi. I don't entertain during those, or when the parents are talking to the guests. I never entertain during that time. I stop. But then once the dancing starts again and they're starting to serve dinner, then I start up again. So yeah, that's what I do. I walk around throughout the whole party.
Yeah, so the semblance of too, so when you have activities at a party, is that those activities can include, you know, the DJ, and you can kind of add extra packages to your DJs, usually with party pumpers, or they have the activities, and they can also, you know, they can do the games on the dance floor. You can look into doing a performer like somebody like a Magic Mike, who is going to be an icebreaker during your cocktail hour, who's really going to get the conversation kind of going and you know, literally breaking the ice between people as they're, you know, starting to get those first cocktails, or they're talking to the kids, getting them out of their shell. There is something to be said about that, you know, mobile kind of entertainment, those kind of pieces. I'm going to push this back over because I'm seeing here I have another question here. And so where it's about 4 o'clock right now, and I don't want to keep you guys on too long, so we're getting through our questions, but I'm going to spin again back over into somebody's asking about virtual parties. What about virtual parties? We are still doing virtual parties. They can still be happening. There's a multiple different ways of doing them. Right now, we're doing a Zoom meeting right now. In these Zoom meetings, you can have up to 1,000 people in these little rooms. So in this sense, you can always come to a company like myself or like RJ, who does a lot of things when it comes to these Zoom kind of meetings, that you can do virtual trivia. We can do scavenger hunts, that we can bring in entertainers. I know there was a question too that somebody was asking about a virtual comic show, a comedian show. That was a question that I had on here. You can always direct message me, or you can find me on the BESA website, but we can talk about that yes, you can do comedian in Zoom. You can do them as in a situation like this. And so you can bring them in. We've even had some comedians do little workshops and do a stand-up workshop with 12 kids. And, you know, it at the end, they all get to do like a little stand-up, little routine at the end of it. So there are some ways to get around that. So virtual parties are happening. And I know a lot of our people, they can contribute into those things that you can, when it comes to the invitation before you do a virtual party, is that you want to get them on the hook. So that's where you would get somebody that would create an invitation that's going to be exciting, that's going to really give your parameters what the party's going to be. Anybody else that wants to talk about virtual events right now, that coming from the panel?
I'll just throw a quick thing out there. So I know everybody's, you know, anxious to get back to partying, which, believe me, we all are. We all want to get out there with, you know, 300 of our friends again and have fun. But just knowing that there is a silver lining, we can still do virtual stuff and make it really fun. You know, one of the first virtual events I got to do with Rachel was that Harry Potter themed event. And I mean, it was fun for me. It's fun for me, not that I'm the most important, but clearly it was fun for me because, you know, the joy I take in what I do is trying to create fun, different things for every party. And so the thought that, you know, I'm legitimately forced to, because we're doing this virtually, was really, really cool. We got to think so outside the box in what we did, you know, with the invitations and everything that were sent out. You know, we got to do this fun little like, okay, now open envelope X, and everybody got surprised, and we did this virtual game that was really fun. And we sort of have different limits. Like we can do so many different things now because this virtual world is so broad that there's so many things that in some cases are just as, if not more fun than some of the different contests and games we've actually done at live parties. And so it is really cool. And if you are one of those people, I'll go very quick because hopefully not, it looked like not many of you were, but if you are one of those people that's like, my party's next month, I don't know what to do, just know we can do really, really fun stuff still.
Yeah. And there's ways too that you can use your budget smartly in this sense that, when you're going to be doing a virtual party, that if you're going to be doing something over Zoom, or if you're going to be doing something that's a broadcast, even a company like ours, that we have actually access to like virtual platforms where all the kids download a game basically onto their computer, just like they would download any other app. And in there, they get to go in, create an avatar of themselves, dress it up, give it their name, and then they get to go to a virtual party as an avatar. And they get to go cruise around, and you can still get the DJ. We can have Benji come in, and he can be playing a DJ set in a virtual beach setting, and the kids can all go there and they can talk, and when they get into certain spaces they can have conversations by themselves. So the virtual world, when it comes to virtual parties, it doesn't have to just exist on Zoom. There are other ways to congregate online that we're seeing that these platforms that popped up a long time ago for corporate events, for conferences, are now being used in the social. A lot of weddings that that the wedding maybe happened on Friday. So our photographer is going to go in, take a bunch of pictures, do some videos of the actual ceremony. And then the reception is going to be the next day. So then he gets his video done. He pops that out over to you. We get to show that in our little meeting. And then, so there's ways that you can still have the virtual party and not lose those little touches, and still kind of utilize, the ceremony that, the service that you're having at the mitzvah, that you can always go in, and so the service can be recorded, it can be taped, we can do a really, really great package on it, that then when we get into a Zoom atmosphere, your person who's running the Zoom can go ahead and press play and show the video of the service from earlier. And then now everybody's here to just kind of break bread together. And so then you would get a caterer that can kind of push out boxes that all have the same kind of foods, and so you can keep that to local. And if you're going even further out than San Diego, we just have to have a little bit more lead time on that. So then we can get those boxes, and we can make sure that it's non-perishable goods, or they get a little shopping list of what goes into the next part. Okay, so any other people that want to kind of comment on any virtual events right now from our panel? So I'm going to kind of keep on pushing this around right now. So back over, I'm going to talk about foods real quick again. So what are some trends that we should be looking out for as we are going into 2022 and late in 2020, 2021?
Okay. Well, right now, I think everybody is so excited to almost be able to have full scale events. That being said, we're really still seeing a trend of really feel good, nostalgic food, a lot of hospitality. I think it's just filling the need for comfort and warmth during these extraordinary times. Fun things is it has been dubbed the year of the cookie in the food world. So we're going to have lots of fun with that.
Love cookies.
It's year of the cookie. I don't know how it happened, but it did.
Are cupcakes still hot?
Yes.
It's been the decade of the cookie for me.
Good. One interesting trend that I've been seeing for mitzvahs is not two separate food areas. Oftentimes the parents will have the sit down and the kids will have the station or the buffet. I'm seeing lots more combined coming up.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a trend right now, is that there's going to be a lot more of like, if you're doing a serve in a place that you're going to be catered and you're having a sit down meal, is that you're going to have that 1-to-1 where you have a one waiter per table that's going to just be handling those people, that they handle one pod. That's it.
Everybody misses everybody.
And so, and it is something to be planned to, that I think next year is that people are going to want to get back together in the room. So we're going to start wrapping this up soon, but does anybody else have any other questions that they would want to kind of ask those out loud? You can raise your hand virtually, or you guys can put those in the chat, but I want to make sure that we address any other questions that we had today.
There was
Lydia,
one in the
you have another
chat.
statement?
Well, there was
Yeah.
one in the chat about requesting information about dancing during social distancing, and I wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay, how the dance parties are doing social distancing. Yes.
And Benji may have something to add to this, but the ones that I've done have only been in a backyard because the hotels right now are not allowing dancing. And most of the hotels are not even doing food right now, unless it's a little box lunch. But for the most part, it's just the family doing the hora. It's not everybody. So everybody isn't holding hands. And that's what I've seen, but I imagine that things are going to relax a little more. And I know for every party we've done hand sanitizers. So if you are dancing with your mask on and you might touch somebody, then you have the opportunity to run and get some hand sanitizer. So everybody's safe and comfortable.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any comments on the dancing, social distancing
I was
wise?
just gonna say, yeah, we haven't done any mitzvahs with the dancing. It's like Lydia said, it's usually just the family themselves. But as we do get to a time where we can dance again, we are thinking of maybe doing like several smaller dance floors in a space. If you're outdoors and you have a lot of space to work with, we can do smaller dance floors, so not everyone is congregated together. We've seen all sorts of ideas with putting like grid lines on the dance floor, and almost like you have a space that you're allowed to be in. We've seen you can do a wristband system, almost like where you're at one of those indoor play parks and they're like, purple wristband, now's your time. So the purple people can go out and dance. So we have, the purple people can go dance. So there are lots of ways that you can, be safe, have fun. We're just thinking differently now, and it's not bad. Some of these things are good moving forward. So yeah, we're just doing it a little bit different.
It's really thinking outside of that bubble anymore, that you have to just kind of I say bubble, no pun intended with this whole COVID situation, but it's just thinking, okay, so we want to have a dance party. You might have to have less people because you need to have more space, because you need to make sure that those are social distance. If you're going to be having a backyard situation, maybe it is where we have circles in the ground, that they do chalk circles in a field, and that your table, if you're at 1B, your dance circle is 1B, so that you just make sure that people coordinate and that they go from one spot to the next. Some of that might become a little bit more lax. The thing is our industry as a whole, in the special event industry, we're the last ones who are being given guidelines by anybody right now about how to run things. We're kind of taking what's been given to restaurants and all these other places that have opened up, and that we kind of have to take those guidelines and kind of make it match into the special event world, because it's just, we're right now last on the list, even though people want to get together. And so what we're trying to do as planners and as vendors is be as safe as possible, and making sure that you guys are safe, we are safe, our staffs are safe. So, we wouldn't really want to put anybody into harm's way, and so the dance floor situation, it just really depends on how many people you're going to have there, and we can come up with those solutions at that point. And so there was just one question about postponements for our party. I do see here. If I had to postpone my party for a year or more due to COVID, are there extra considerations when planning the entertainment? Any of our entertainers or anybody want to take this question first?
Well, every bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah that I had last year pretty much postponed to this year or 2022. So basically everything stays the same. I had one refund, but other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, I think it's just looking to see what their availability is that a lot of your entertainers have moved the dates, to whatever that you've decided to postpone till. And
that was my worst nightmare. I was worried that when people started calling back for 2021, that everybody would want the same date, and
Mike, this has been all of our worst nightmares, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There really is. And then we'll be more busy. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the thing is so I think the things that you want to kind of plan though is that your considerations are just going to be that if you are planning, if you're going to be postponing into the future, double check with those bands, with those DJs, with those entertainers, and have a backup plan. And utilize resources like BESA that you guys can go to our besasandiego.com website and kind of see that if you can't get this DJ, well, maybe another one in our organization is available. But the person who you originally planned, they really want to come through for you. And so they're going to try to. So unless they have somebody else that is already concrete in that day with a deposit and a contract and everything, they're going to most likely move with you, and they're going to let you know if they need to put you on a secondary hold because somebody else also moved their date to that date. They'll let you know. They should be very upfront with you, or they can they can say, okay, let me talk to the other family and give them 48 hours before that they jump over to you. So there are some solutions. It really is about communicating with your entertainment, with your DJs, with your SoCal green screen, with your photography. You want to communicate with them because everything is moving around. And so we're trying to be as flexible as humanly possible because we want to service your families. It's just making sure that we are able to have the resources and the staff that can make sure that they can do that for you.
And if I can add to that, if your DJ isn't available, maybe consider having a luncheon party. So if he's available earlier in that day, and because normally you would have the service in the morning or afternoon of the day of the bar mitzvah, since if you're already having your service over Zoom, you can be more flexible on your date. Maybe consider having it on a Sunday, or if there's a school holiday on a Monday, or if it's during the summer, you can have it on a Sunday because not everybody has to go to school the next day. So it's almost kind of nice if you've already had your service that you have a little bit more flexibility on your party date, and hopefully you can work with your vendors and everybody can come to a happy medium with the same date.
Absolutely. And just know, and then if you are somebody who is booking somebody who is a headliner, if you're getting a DJ from Vegas, something like that, you have to keep into consideration that those people might be rebooking, and that those people travel. You have to reconsider that kind of a thing, that, is it going to cost more to get them here? Is it going to be, how much is their hotel stays going to be, and that sort of thing. It's something that you always want to look into when you're booking that kind of entertainment. Anybody else have any other questions today? Because I'm going to wrap this up in just a moment. This has been an absolute pleasure coming to you guys today with the rest of our team here from BESA San Diego. And so if you guys have any questions for anybody that's on this panel, please do not hesitate and go to besasandiego.com, and you can find all of our websites. I know a lot of us have put our email addresses right now into the chat box, so you guys can go there. Please do feel free to ask us questions. That's what we're here for right now. We want to make sure that you guys have the best experience possible when you guys are planning your mitzvahs. And this should be a good pleasure for you. The world is upside down right now, but you don't have to be when you're planning this. So also do make sure that you guys do check out BESA San Diego on Facebook. We're also on Instagram. That's where you're going to find some of your most up-to-date news about what's going on. And then we also have our YouTube channel that is with our Mitz TV. The Mitz TV is a great resource. You can kind of find a lot of our different vendors. We have tours through some of their facilities, some of the venue tours, like the Carlsbad Flower Fields are on there. You'll see House of Blues is on there. We have different tutorials with our makeup artists. We have tutorials with Magic Mike that you saw earlier. Food things. We have a lot going on there. So please do check out our BESA San Diego on YouTube. Thank you guys all so much. We do want to plan to have another one of these in the future. So please do keep your eyes open for those emails as they come through. Other than that, anybody else have anything else they want to leave and add to the party today?
I just wanted to say, if there's a subject that we didn't touch on today, please send your questions for the next one to info@besasandiego.com. And we would love to hear from you about questions that we can answer for you, or give one of us a call.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us today, and hope to see you guys in September. Keep your eyes out for that expo information as it comes through.
Thank you.
Bye. Good day, everybody.